Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you right before you guys are going to lock your lineups in the WGC Dell match play. This is going to be talk about weather, ownership projections. I don't want to call them sleepers because we have such a small field, but maybe some guys that are being overlooked. And then again, just last about the strategy on which to make sure when you are doing your DFS, picking your players. Just things to remember. I know you've probably been reminded about this multiple times, but I'll kind of touch upon that again. All right, let's get into this. So the first thing I wanted to cover was injuries. And all I'm doing is just bringing to attention again some of the guys that we have to think about twice before rostering, or just giving my opinions on each of them. So right, you had Harris English, who withdrew from the players right before the tournament started. We have no information on what the injury was or why he withdrew. I think, honestly, my own perception is that his game has just been so bad that he did not want to go out in the players and shoot a couple 80s or shoot an 80 withdraw. So that's why I think he withdrew. I think he's fine physically. I just think the game is not where he wishes it was. I will be fading Harris, even though I am a fan of his game, but it's just not been where it needs to be. The next guy, of course, Matthew Wolff, which here's a great risk reward kind of pick, right? So he withdrew after playing a round at each of these tournaments. So at the WGC Workday, which shows Mexico, but it was WGC Workday. I think he shot like an 80, withdrew. I think on both occasions he mentioned the hand or wrist was an issue, and of course he withdrew after the first round of the Farmers. So, and I think he might even have other withdrawals, or at least I know he pulled out of tournaments, definitely on the Florida swing. Long story short, I think it's mental. I don't think he trusts the swing where it's at. But the good news is, he is an elite talent, and when he gets this figured out, he can be very dynamic. And in the setting of match play, right, he can, go out and shoot a 10, one hole, and then go out and, put a couple birdies together. So for the price of 6,900, he's someone that you could take a risk, a flyer on. We'll look at ownership projections to see where he's at. I'd have to guess very minimal, but someone to look out from that side. Of course, we got Daniel Berger, who has mentioned some discomfort, or we call it a rib injury, something he's been dealing with. Of course, he got through 4 rounds with the players. I believe he ended with a top 10 finish. And I honestly believe he pulled out of the Honda. It was probably just nagging him. And he looked at, I really want to play in these upcoming events, and I wanted 100% healed, hence the WGC and also the Masters. I'm rostering him, as you already know, and he's a pick of mine to come out of that bottom quadrant, if you call it the bottom southwest quadrant, I guess, if you technically were looking at it. Anyway, so yeah, just someone to think about. We'll look at his ownership projection to see if that's affected at all. I doubt it, but we'll see. And then, of course, you got my favorite Kevin Na, who also is in my picks. And if you look there, he's got a bad pinky. Maybe that's why he withdrew from the players. But anyways, of course, he shot, that 10, or actually, I guess it was technically an 8, chipped in for 8. And then I think it was more just pride, just pissed off that he hit a good shot, but knows that he could not hold that ball where he hit it. And it was just pissed off that he took an 8 and knew that he was not going to probably make the cut. So he just withdrew. I don't think there's anything wrong with Na. But, he does have a tendency here or there to withdraw. So it's something I got to look at. And then, of course, the king of withdrawals, my favorite Louis Oosthuizen, who, again, I added some lineups, and he withdrew right before the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And, of course, you had Justin Rose, who's not in this event, but he withdrew a few holes after. But I actually think he was dealing with a back injury. I think Louis, for whatever reason, this guy just flakes out and decides he doesn't want to play. Now, maybe he does have some issues that he doesn't let out. Of course, we don't get injury reports that he deals with. We don't know that, but it's just maybe he, almost like a Tiger Woods thing, doesn't know how he's going to feel until the day of. So that's one a little risky. And of course, he's in the, if you want to call it the death bracket or whatever it is, with Kisner, JT, him, and I can't even remember who the other guy is in that bracket. But yeah, someone to think about, and just be careful on that note. And of course, it would not be complete if you didn't get your updated weather report. And I'm just going to let you know, Wind Finder, check out, you want to pull up Austin Camp Mabry. I guess that's how you say that. The only real serious conditions I see is Thursday morning. Looks like it can gust up to almost 30 miles an hour, so that will be interesting. So they might even move tee times back a little bit if that is the case. They can get it all in, but something to look forward to. Of course, trying to figure out, who's playing who, when. They're both going to have to deal with those conditions. So, I wouldn't really concern. I guess I didn't even look to see what is going to be done, if anything, from a showdown perspective, but definitely something to keep in mind Thursday morning when you're rostering your players. Again, weather changes. Who knows what it'll be by the time this is being recorded. Wednesday around 1:30. So Eastern. I'm sorry, Tuesday at 1:30 Eastern. And then Friday looks like the afternoon. It's going to get some wind. You got some wind again morning. It's kind of funny from 8 to 20. That's quite a variant. And then late afternoon again looks like wind's going to be the worst, and maybe some rain, and then some rain in the morning. So, anyways, just go to Windfinder, pull up Austin Camp, Mabry, and that's the closest location I could find to get your up-to-date weather forecast. Then the other thing I was, the more and more I kind of talked about that, I think putting is probably the most important thing. Of course, you got to get tee to green, but I think when it comes down to match play, putting is going to be very key. And so all I did, just to give you, I pulled up these guys last, I think it was 36 rounds. And this is through Fantasy National, and just clicked on Bermuda. I did not put fast or, firm, because it just eliminated too many. I wanted to get the Pete Dye courses involved as much as I could. Because typically Pete Dye greens are somewhat similar, where they're very undulation, a lot of zone areas you got to be. And so I just thought, hey, who would be the top 10 putters in this group? On a Pete Dye course, Bermuda greens, and your number one, which I thought was kind of interesting, is Billy Horschel, who I have think that could make the finals. You got Cameron Smith. That's not a shocker. Jason Day. We're going to look at him because there's some interesting facts here. We all know that Jason Day in our mind has not been putting that well, but the stats actually tell different. Of course, Sanjay Fitzpatrick, Webb Simpson, JT Poston, Russ Henley, Lanto, and Brian Harmon. None of those guys shock me, honestly, except maybe Jason Day, that he's that high up there. We'll look at him to understand why. And on that note, I've got a list of, which I said I wasn't going to say sleepers, but my overlooked guys. And I think Bubba, from ownership projections, getting overlooked, and there's some reasoning for that. Even though he's won here before, can be very good in match play. Either Bubba's, he's just white hot, or he's, all over the lot. So he's an interesting play, but we'll look at him. We're going to look into more on Jason Day, Bezadenhout, Lanto, which, hasn't been talked about a ton, but of course he's a Texas guy, local, knows the course, sleeping in his own bed. Some interesting things there. And then, of course, Brian Harmon, who's already one of my picks. Again, a lefty, but really good with the putter, steady. So on that note, let's go jump in and look at the analysis on these guys, and then I'll kind of recap and finish this up. Okay, so before I even go any further, I always make sure I get the ownership projections in. So again, out of Fantasy National, I'm getting this information. This is all the guys within Fantasy National that are building out their teams, doing their mass entries and whatnot, or just selected favorite players. You got to select a few of these guys to even look at it. So that's why you'll see the guys highlighted that I've got. Those aren't my picks. And the number that you really want to look at is this far right number here. So long story short, in the top group, the least owned was Xander Schauffele at 6.4. So, good player. If you were trying to differentiate, and again, it all comes down to his pod and, who he's going against and what you think of his thoughts of getting further. But from an upper echelon, he is the least owned. And that's kind of what I'm looking at, is the guys that are more or less owned, just to give you, Daniel Berger right now is less owned. I think everybody kind of feels like Rahm will come out of that pod, and also with the rib injury, so that's not a shocker. Hideki, which has never made it out of the first flight, so he's only at 5%. Lee Westwood, I think everybody's off him, which that's funny because it wouldn't shock me that somehow Lee Westwood would come out and tear it up. So just, everybody's thinking the same thing. The narrative of he's played too much golf, too old to play that much golf, and you also coming off that poor showing at the Honda Classic, which just so you guys know, when I talked about this, he wouldn't play it, I think, 36 holes with his son at the Masters or at Augusta like the day before. I think he was just burned out, wanted to do that, but also want to honor, I guess, has relationships with the guy who runs the Honda Classic and has gotten exemptions from this guy in the past. So knowing that the field was as weak as it was, he would have withdrawn, I think, if there was a few more players there, but he wanted to not, hurt the tournament draw or whatever, just eyeballs on the tournament. So he, went out, and you can see the first day, I think he shot like even or something like that. Second day, had a couple bad holes. I think shot like 6, 7, 8 over, whatever it was. So I'm just telling you that he's probably a little more refresh and would not be a bad pick if you're trying to differentiate. I'll probably look at that. I will put some teams in just on a lower ownership. I think it's just smart, differentiate. Bubba, who I already mentioned, is only at 5% owned. It's had success here, and we'll look at his analysis. Matt Wallace is maybe the least owned. I haven't got down, but that's pretty crazy, 1.6. But that's coming out of that tough European pod. Who else? Kuchar, just game hasn't been there, but again, could shock the world. Robbie McIntyre, I just think people, again, I told you, a little bit of golf I got to watch him play made me pretty scared of Robbie McIntyre, but you just never know. But Antoine Rosner is at 1%. Oh, Andy Sullivan, he's the least owned right now. Okay, so there you go. All right, so it just gives you some ideas if you're trying to differentiate where maybe the ownership projections will come in. Again, this is just projections. All right, let's talk about Bubba just real quick. Bubba's best surface is POA. He's a little negative, but Bubba's he's just so streaky with the putter. But as you see, he can handle the wind, and it is going to blow, as you saw. He had a miscut at the players. If we look at the putting over here, looks like his last, where he actually just gained, except we're not counting the players, which is funny that he actually gained strokes on Bermuda, just did not do well in the other areas. His last time between that was was at the Zozo. And that's where you could see he was elite tee to green and was getting those finishes without the putter. And then it's kind of falling back a little bit. But, again, it's match play. It's, one hole at a time. You're playing a competitor, someone that, has had good success here. So I think it's something you could look at. And then the comp courses I mentioned previously. So if we look at RBC, played there once. He had a 52. It's a Pete Dye. RSM, which is a Sea Island course, which is, has some similarities. Only played there once, and that was a while ago. I'm just curious about the Travelers. So this was what was interesting. I think this is a pretty good comp course. I believe it's POA, if I remember correct. Yeah, but it's a par 70. Very similar, firm greens, fast. It is a different service, but it is a Pete Dye course, and he's won there twice. So if I remember that correctly, let me just confirm that. All right, yeah. So he won in 2018. He won in 2015, and he had a second back in 2012. Now, the most recent results was a miscut. So do what you want with that. But just wanted to show you that information. The other guy I mentioned was Jason Day. And the big thing I wanted to bring up with Day is, and even in my own mind, he's been just bad with the putter. And then I looked, and I was kind of shocked when I saw pretty much, a little bit of the California last, AT&T Pro-Am, he gained 3.3. But actually in Florida, on Bermuda, he gained 2.5 strokes with the putter, where he's actually been struggling his approach, doing well off the tee. So, and then funny enough, at the Players, he did well in all these areas, from off the tee, approach, around the green. Actually gained 11 strokes tee to green, but just messed up on the putter. So if this and that combines in this event, and he's won here back to back, it could be a sleepy guy, a sneaky guy that could do something. So just side note on that. Dylan Fratelli, actually listened to his presser. Of course, as I mentioned, he is sleeping in his own bed. I think it's the first event he's ever got to do that at. I think previously he didn't have his house yet when they held it here when he played. I think he made it out of the first pod. I think. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But the interesting thing is, right, he had that good showing at the Masters, and then kind of fell off, and then, popped up again at the Players. And what he was stating was, he did contract COVID. His game was not where he wanted it. He started to get into a workout routine, or got to do some workouts that got his, feeling, stronger, better. Of course, then he had to miscut the Hondas. But, you can go with knows the course, has played her a bit, sleeping in his own bed, could come out and do well. Of course, Bermuda, he doesn't, on all surfaces, the putter just either gets super white hot or it doesn't. But, can handle the wind to some degree. So again, just some things to think about. You got Bezadenhout, who, gains a stroke on Bermuda. We've got to see a little bit of him. Actually, he was one of my picks for one of the previous Florida tournaments. Didn't really work out. Funny enough, I think he did well the next one. So maybe I picked him for WGC. And then, maybe it was the API. He did well. Who knows? As I mentioned, typically a week late. But can play in the win. If we look at just some recent, at that 7th place at the Arnold Palmer. And as seen here, does well on Bermuda. Wyndham, I just have to confirm, I'm almost 100%. Yeah, is Bermuda Sedgefield. So the guy's been doing well on the Bermuda courses from a putting perspective. If we look at RBC, played there in 20, had a 28th. If we looked at RSM, I thought he did play, no. And then the Travelers hasn't played. Okay. But yeah, I think it's someone that could be a little bit, people aren't really looking at that strong. Brian Harmon's already picked. Good on Bermuda, lefty, good in the win. Guy's just a bulldog. Had a really good showing, which I think, got everybody's attention at the Players. Of course, he gained 7 strokes. He doesn't usually gain, as you see, that kind of strokes. But if he puts it all together like there, he could be a tough knockout. And he's the 4th seed in there, so could save you some cash. RBC, it's got a pretty good showing there. The RSM, it's good showing. And the Travelers, good showing. So yeah, this course should fit him really well. And I don't actually know his stats off the top of my head. So was that it? Was that the 5 guys? Yeah. So that was it. That was what I wanted to show you from an analysis perspective, just so you could have some more information on those guys. Okay, and then my last inputs that I have for you guys before you do your final picks is, again, just remember, this is an older bracket, so don't look at the names or whatever. This is, I think, from like 2017. I just want to illustrate. I don't think I did a good job describing this previously, is that, the key, what I would do is, get one of your favorite guys in each of these quadrants of the bracket, right? I mean, this isn't rocket science, but I'm just restating this if you're newer to this. And then, if you want to double up, I would pick a guy like quad 2 and quad 3, or flip it around quad 1, quad 4. Again, if you're putting 2 more extra guys in to put them in on the same side, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Spread out your guys, differentiate what you can. It's, from all the guys in the business of trying to do golf predictions, I think we're all going to probably come back here on Monday and be like, oh, didn't see that coming, but that's the way this works. So enjoy it, enjoy the madness, enjoy the fun. It is a fun viewing event, and all the best of luck to you guys. And thank you for stopping by. If you like what you're seeing, click the like button, share it with anybody else you think might get value. And if you have not subscribed, I would appreciate it greatly if you would. And if you have anything I can help you out with, hit me up with comments on the YouTube, or follow me at DFS Golf Guru at Twitter, and I will do my best to help you with any questions you have. All right, best of luck, and talk to you guys next week.